Hey! I make product reviews on YouTube and Amazon, and today I want to show you behind the scenes how you can make professional product photos and videos using budget equipment. You can start by using your smartphone and a cheap light stand. You don't need the most expensive equipment. The big advantage of product photography is that you can do everything at home. You can install your fixed home studio setup, of course only if your girlfriend, boyfriend, parents, children allow it. I'm lucky because my girlfriend is on holidays right now, so I can put everything on the dinner table. This is also the second part of my tutorial about how to make product reviews. You can find the first part about the content of your video in the info card. Please also make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future tutorials like this. My most successful review on Amazon Germany is the review of the GoPro 7. I did all the product pictures and the video using this setup. This setup is perfect for small objects and product details. I will make a separate video for larger objects. My setup consists of this light box, the camera, an additional LED light, a monitor and an audio recorder. Usually I use the A6500 as a camera, but I'm filming with it right now. That's why I'm using the A5100. I will link all products in the description. If I find a better one, I will update this list. The light box that I'm using has 40 centimeters and it's powered from USB, so I can use a power bank or a phone charger. It has two LED strips inside that are used to illuminate the subject, and because the walls are white, the light bounces around and I don't have hard shadows. There are lots of different versions of this tent. You can see here I had an old version. It uses velcros, but this is very bad because the velcros are just glued, they're getting loose and the tent collapses. This is much better because it has buttons here. This is much more stable. Also the way the background is attached, this just has these holes here. You have to put the background here inside, but it's very quickly that this goes out here again. The other tent is much better. It has backgrounds in lots of colors and it has these holes here and you can just hang the background. One more thing about the tent, because it's foldable, I have two holes on the sides. And if I'm using a more wide angle lens, I will have these holes in the picture. For photography it's not a big problem because I can remove these holes very quickly in the photo editing. But for videos it's a bigger problem, that's why I'm using a more tight lens right now. Now I have to talk about lights and why some lights are flickering. These light tents come with different kind of LED lights. There are LED lights that are dimmable, and then there are LED lights that are not dimmable. And then there are LED lights that are connected more or less directly to AC power, and then there are lights that are connected to USB. The only LED light that is not flickering is the one that connects to USB and is not dimmable. Usually you can see in the product description non-flickering light. In Europe the electricity uses 50 Hz, so it would be better to film with 25 or 50 frames, which is the PAL standard, the European standard, because 25 is a fraction of 50. Unfortunately, if you film with a smartphone, it will always use 30 or 60 frames, because it uses the American standard, the NTSC standard. You can see this problem very quickly if you're filming cheap Christmas lights, or you can see the video of a friend who tried to build his own light tent and he used a smartphone that was flickering. Also, if you use a cheap dimmable light, it will start to flicker when you dim it, because that's how it works. I'm using a trick to make the light even softer. I have this sheet from an old photo studio light kit. I put these sheets through the holes in the back, and then I use these close pegs to fix it in the front. This makes the light even softer and the result will look even more professional. The disadvantage of this is that the light is not as strong, so you need faster lenses. You can have never enough lights for product photography because you would use a smaller aperture to have as much in focus as possible and to have sharper results. I use an additional light. I point it directly towards my subject, or if I have too many reflections, I put it against the wall, so I have indirect light and softer shadows. As for the camera, I would recommend the Sony A6400 because it's the best budget option for 4K video right now. It also has a flip-up screen and the best autofocus. It doesn't have sensor stabilization, but that's not necessary if you're filming on the tripod anyways. Then I'm using the Sony 35mm 1.8 lens. I have the camera on a mini tripod with a ball head. That's very convenient that I don't need a big tripod. The only thing you have to be careful is that if you're pushing the table, your video will be shaky. Of course, you can also use your phone using a phone mount. I'm even using a polarization filter. This is maybe a matter of taste, but it gives me even more contrast. I've bought the filter for my biggest lens size, and then I'm using these step-up rings to adapt it to my smaller lenses. These are my camera settings for photography. I use aperture priority. For photographing the GoPro, I had to turn up the exposure compensation because I don't want to have complete black. I like a more cinematic look. Then I'm using ISO 200 for less noise and a sharper result. I'm using f8 or even f16, so everything is in focus and sharp. And then I usually have to use a 2-second self-timer to avoid camera shake. And then I'm also photographing in RAW, so that the camera doesn't crush the whites and blacks. These are my camera settings for video. I used to film in aperture priority, but the problem was that the camera changed the exposure during video, or also when I film a phone screen or an LED light. Now I use manual exposure. My settings are 24 frames, ISO 200, 1/50th of a second shutter speed. The aperture I change between f2 and f8. Then I'm using daylight white balance. I'm using picture profile 8, Cine 4 and the Pro color mode. I am also using a big 7-inch monitor so that I can see if everything is in focus. I also have focus peaking. The screen of the camera is much too small, and especially if I have to push it inside the tent, because maybe I'm using a more wide-angle lens, then I cannot see because of the reflections. I'm also using false colors because I'm using manual exposure, so that I can see if the exposure is correct. It should be between 50 and 70 IRE for skin tones, which is light gray or pink. I have my script on my smartphone, so I'm using it as a kind of teleprompter, so that I know what I have to say. I also have an app, so that the screen doesn't turn off automatically. I'm also using an external audio recorder with a Lavalier microphone, which is more near to my mouth, so I have less room echo. With the A6400 or A6500 I could connect the Lavalier microphone directly to the camera, but it's good to have 2 audio tracks anyways. Last but not least, I also have this rocket air blower. Maybe you think this is not so important, but if you make high quality 4K video, you will see all dust and hair on your product. So clean the product first. Also, if you make pictures with f8 or f16, you will see all the tiny dust particles on the sensor. So clean the camera sensor as well. This was my setup for smaller objects and product details. I've come a long way. I did my first product video in 2017 and I'm always improving my setup. I will list all products in the description, and if I find a better one I will update this list. I will also make a video for bigger products. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future tutorials like this. Question of the day: what kind of products are you planning to test? And have you already tried a light tent and what is your experience? Please post in the comments below. And like my video if it was helpful for you, and see you next time. Bye!